Sunshine, how are you? Oh, let's see. I am, I've had an off day, I can tell you that. Just, have not been prepared for tonight like I normally am. But that is okay. There we go. Oh, I'm sure. Hey, Wings. Like I always say, this being here actually usually makes a bad day better. Not that today's been bad, just off. Hey, Amy, how are you? I shouldn't be, though. Hey, Greg, how are you? I shouldn't be. I slept far too long today. I had intended to get up at 8 o'clock this morning and just hit the ground running and start working, and yeah, totally did not get up until almost noon. I didn't wake up until almost noon. It's like not even, I don't want to even make it sound like I had a choice. I just did not wake up. I just did not wake up. Hey, Crazy Mama, how are you? How was your birthday? I have got a couple of science fiction stories for you tonight. Hey, Tessa. I am so glad you're here. Relatable Hair, how are you? Welcome. Hey, Gam Gam, how are you? Alrighty then. Happy Friday indeed, Deborah. How are you? Damn. 1,900 likes already. You guys are working quick. East Tennessee. Can't ever have enough East Tennessee. Oh, Pixie Pie, I appreciate that. I enjoy doing it. This is honestly fun for me. Saturday morning for you. Indeed. I guess it would be. Gotta beat the record. Yeah, I think according to TikTok, I have been live like 38 weeks in a row, which is kind of totally cool. South Central Ohio. That sounds sounds dangerous. South Central Ohio. So I didn't pack tonight. I've got two stories roughly about 55 minutes apiece. But they are good ones. They are good ones. Rhode Island. I always wonder if, like, because Rhode Island's so small, it's like if I could, like, stand in Rhode Island in the middle and reach out my arms, if I could touch both sides of it. Northeastern Ohio. Hey, Eddie. How are you, sir? I guess like Rhode Island, you're never far from anywhere else in Rhode Island. I mean, I've been to Rhode Island. It's a beautiful state. It's just very small. Whereas in like New York, I mean, like I tell people I'm from New York and they go, "Oh, have you been to New York City?" And I'm like, "Well, I've been to New York City once." And I literally just drove to the airport. I've lived in New York State my entire life, and New York City is 6 hours away. Like, people forget how big New York State is. I have never been to the UK, but that will be changing hopefully later this year or early next year. My daughter lives in Liverpool, so I'll be going to visit her. I'll be flying out of Toronto to Manchester. I'll take a direct flight from there. Yeah, Tessa, it's tiny. It is tiny. But it's pretty tiny. Oh, God. I mean, like, I think my worst commute ever was when I would have, because I'm on one side of Rochester, and where I no, it's not, Edward. It's how you use it, says the man from, California. How we doing, Ed? Yeah. I love that people don't realize how big Alaska is. Because it's so, like, not properly size-wise represented on any maps. You're probably getting fired. Oh, wow. Well, there you go. You can be unemployed like me. All right. Well, it is now 9:10. Hey, Sharkeisha, how are you? Welcome, welcome. So I think I am going to get started. I've got 2 stories tonight. Both, I decided to go a little bit of science fiction bent. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Storytime with UndeadPapa. Tonight I have 2 stories, not our usual horror content, but this is more science fiction. Both stories deal with memories and the nature of reality. So, wherever you're listening from, dim the lights, sit back and relax, because story time is about to begin. Our first story tonight is Snow by John Crowley. Well, Subtext Aquarius, I am glad you're here. Bring this up just a bit. Oh, there we go. I don't think Georgie would have ever gotten one for herself. She was at once unsentimental and a little in awe of death. No, it was her first husband, an immensely rich and, from Georgie's description, a strangely weepy guy who had gotten it for her. For himself, actually, of course, he was to be the beneficiary. Only he died himself shortly after it was installed, if installed is the right word. After he died, Georgie got rid of most of what she'd inherited from him, liquidated it. It was cash she had liked best about that marriage anyway. But the wasp couldn't really be got rid of. Georgie ignored it. In fact, the thing really was about the size of a wasp of the largest kind, and it had the same lazy and mindless flight. And of course it really was a bug, not of the insect kind, but of the surveillance kind. And so its name fit all round. One of those bits of accidental poetry the world generates without thinking. O death, where is thy sting? Georgie ignored it, but it was hard to avoid. You had to be a little careful around it. It followed Georgie at a variable distance, depending on her motions and the number of other people around her, the level of light and the tone of her voice. And there was always the danger you might shut it in a door or knock it down with a tennis racket. It cost a fortune, if you count the access and the perpetual care contract, all prepaid. And though it wasn't really fragile, it made you nervous. I forgot the button. It wasn't recording all the time. There had to be a certain amount of light, though not much. Darkness shut it off, and then sometimes it would get lost. Once, when we hadn't seen it hovering around for a time, I opened a closet door and it flew out unchanged. It went off looking for her, humming softly. It must have been shut in there for days. Eventually it ran out, or down. A lot could go wrong, I suppose, with circuits that small controlling that many functions. It ended up spending a lot of time bumping gently against the bedroom ceiling, over and over like a winter fly. Then, one day, the maid swept it out from under the bed, a husk. By that time it had transmitted at least 8,000 hours. 8,000 was the minimum guarantee of Georgie, of her days and hours, her comings in and her goings out, her speech and motion, have her living self all on file, taking up next to no room at the park. And then, when the time came, you could go there, to the park, say on a Sunday afternoon, in a quiet landscape surroundings as the park described it. You would find her personal resting chamber, and there, in privacy, through the miracle of modern information storage and retrieval systems, you could access her. Her alive, her as she was in every way, never changing or growing any older, fresher, as the park's brochure said, than in memory, evergreen. I married Georgie for her money. The same reason she married her first, the one who took out the park's contract for her. She married me, I think, for my looks. She always had a taste for looks in men. I wanted to write. I made a calculation that more women than men make, and decided that to be supported and paid for by a rich wife who would give me freedom to do so, to develop. The calculation worked out no better for me than it does for most women who make it. I carried a typewriter and a case of miscellaneous paper from Ibiza to Gstaad to Bial to London, and typed on beaches and learned to ski. Georgie liked me in ski clothes. Now that those looks are all but gone, I can look back on myself as a young hunk and see that I was, in a way, a rarity. A type that you run into often among women, far less among men. The beauty unaware of his beauty, aware that he affects women profoundly and more or less instantly, but doesn't know why. thinks he is being listened to and understood, that his soul is being seen, when all that's being seen is long-lashed eyes and a strong, square, tanned wrist turning in a lovely gesture, stubbing out a cigarette. Confusing. By the time I figured out why I had for so long been indulged and cared for and listened to, why I was interesting, I wasn't as interesting as I had been. At about the same time, I realized I wasn't a writer at all. Georgie's investment stopped looking as good to her, and my calculation had ceased to add up. Only by the time I had come pretty unexpectedly to love Georgie a lot, and she just as unexpectedly had come to love and need me too, as much as she needed anybody. We never really parted, even though when she died I hadn't seen her for years. Phone calls at dawn or 4 a.m. because she never, for all her travel, really grasped that the world turns and cocktail hour travels with it. She was a crazy, wasteful, happy woman without a trace of malice or permanence or ambition in her, easily pleased and easily bored, and strangely serene despite the hectic pace she kept up. She cherished things and lost them and forgot them, things, days, people. She had fun, though, and I had fun with her. That was her talent and her destiny, not always an easy one. Once, hung over in a New York hotel watching a sudden snowfall out the immense window, she said to me, "Charlie, I'm going to die of fun." And she did. Snow falling in Austria, she was among the first to get one of those snow leopards, silent beasts as fast as speedboats. Alfredo called me in California to tell me, but with the distance and his accent and his eagerness to tell me he wasn't to blame, I never grasped the details. I was still her husband, and beneficiary, too, of the park's access concept. Fortunately, the park's services included collecting her from the morgue in Gstaad and installing her in her chamber at the park's California unit. Beyond signing papers and taking delivery when Georgie arrived by freight airship in Van Nuys, there was nothing for me to do. The park's representative was solicitous and made sure I understood how to go about accessing Georgie, but I wasn't listening. I am only a child of my time, I suppose. Everything about death, the fact of it, the fate of the remains, and the situation of the living faced with it seems grotesque to me. Embarrassing and useless. And everything done about it only makes it more grotesque, more useless. Someone I loved is dead. Let me therefore dress in clown's clothes, talk backwards, and buy expensive machinery to make up for it. I went back to L.A. A year or more later, the contents of some safe deposit boxes of Georgie's arrived from the lawyers, some bonds and such stuff in a small steel case, velvet-lined, that contained a key deeply notched on both sides and headed with smooth plastic, like the key to an expensive car. Why did I go to the park that first time? Mostly because I had forgotten about it. Getting that key in the mail was like coming across a pile of old snapshots you hadn't cared to look at when they were new, but which after they have aged and come to contain the past, as they did not contain the present, I was curious. I understood very well that the park and its access concept were very probably only another cruel joke on the rich, preserving the illusion that they can buy what can't be bought, like the cryonics fad of 30 years ago. Once in Ibiza, Georgie and I met a German couple who also had a contract with the park. Their wasp hovered. Wow, that one got away from me. Their wasp hovered over them like a parcelet, whatever, and made them self-conscious to the extreme. They seemed to be constantly rehearsing the eternal show being stored up for their descendants. Their deaths had taken over their lives, as though they were pharaohs. Did they, Georgie wondered, exclude the wasp from their bedroom? Or did its presence there stir them to greater efforts, proofs of undying love and admirable vigor for the unborn to see? No, death wasn't to be cheated that way, any more than by pyramids, by masses said in perpetuity. It wasn't Georgie saved from death that I would find, but there were 8,000 hours of her life with me. Genuine hours, stored there more carefully than they could be in my precious memory. Georgie hadn't excluded the wasp from her bedroom, our bedroom, and she, who had never performed for anybody, could not have conceived of performing for it. And there would be me, too, undoubtedly caught unintentionally by the wasp's attention. Out of those thousands of hours there would be hundreds of myself, and myself had just then begun to be problematic for me. Something that had to be figured out, something about which evidence had to be gathered and weighed. I was 38 years old. That summer, then, I borrowed a highway access permit, or the old happy cards of those days, from a county lawyer I knew, and drove the oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm all over the place today. Oh. 2 stories tonight, Casey. That summer, then, I borrowed a highway access permit, the old happy cards of those days, from a county lawyer I knew, and drove the coast highway up to where the park was at the end of a pretty beach road, all alone above the sea. It looked from the outside like the best, most peaceful kind of Italian country cemetery, a low stucco wall topped with urns amid cypresses, an arched gate in the center. A small brass plaque on the gate, "Please use your key." The gate opened, not to a square of shaded tombstones, but onto a ramped corridor going down. The cemetery wall was an illusion. The works were underground. Silence, or nameless, Muzak-like silence, solitude, whether the necessary technicians were discreetly hidden or none were needed. Certainly the access concept turned out to be simplicity itself, in operation anyway. Even I, who am an idiot about information technology, could tell that. The wasp was genuine state-of-the-art stuff, but what we mourners got was as ordinary as home movies, as old letters tied up in ribbon. A display screen near the entrance told me down which corridor to find Georgie, and my key let me into a small screening room where there was a moderate-sized TV monitor, 2 comfortable chairs, and the dark walls of chocolate-brown carpeting. The sweet, sad Muzak. Georgie herself was evidently somewhere in the vicinity, in the wall or under the floor. They weren't specific about the charnel house aspect of the place. In the control panel before the TV were a keyhole for my key and 2 bars, access and reset. I sat, feeling foolish and a little afraid, too, made more uncomfortable by being so deliberately soothed by neutral furnishings and sober tools. I imagined around me, down other corridors, in other chambers, others communed with their dead, as I was about to do. The dead were murmuring to them beneath the stream of Muzak, that they wept to see and hear as I might, but I could hear nothing. I turned my key in its slot, and the screen lit up. The dim lights dimmed further, and the Muzak ceased. I pushed access, obviously the next step. No doubt all these procedures had been explained to me long ago at the dock when Georgie and her aluminum box was being offloaded, and I hadn't listened. And on the screen she turned to look at me. Only not at me, though I started and drew a breath at the wasp that watched her. She was in mid-sentence, mid-gesture. Where? When? Or put it on the same card with the others, she said, turning away. Someone said something. Georgie answered and stood up, the wasp panning and moving erratically with her like an amateur with a home video camera. A white room, sunlight, wicker, Ibiza. Georgie wore a cotton blouse, open. From a table she picked up lotion, poured some on her hand, and rubbed it across her freckled breastbone. The meaningless conversation about putting something on a card went on, ceased. I watched the room, wondering what year, what season I had stumbled into. And she went out onto the balcony, the wasp following, blinded by the sun, adjusting. "If you want to do it that way," someone said. And the someone crossed the screen, a brown blur. It was me. Georgie said, "Oh, look, hummingbirds." She watched them, rapt, and the wasp crept close to her cropped blonde head, rapt too, and I watched her watch. She turned away, rested her elbows on the balustrade. I couldn't remember this day. How should I? One of hundreds of thousands. She looked out to the bright sea, wearing her sleepwalking face, mouth partly open, and absently stroking with her oiled hand. An iridescent glitter among the flowers was the hummingbird. Without really knowing what I did, I felt hungry, suddenly hungry for pastness, for more. I touched the reset bar. The balcony in Ibiza vanished. The screen glowed emptily. I touched access. At first there was darkness, a murmur. Then a dark back moved away from the wasp's eye, and a dim scene of people resolved itself. Jump. Other people. Or the same people, a party. Jump. Apparently the wasp was turning itself on and off according to the changes in light levels, wherever here was. Georgie in a dark dress, having her cigarette lit. Brief flare of lighter. She said, "Thanks." Jump. A foyer or hotel lounge. Paris? The wasp jerkily sought for her among people coming and going. It couldn't make a movie, establishing shots, cutaways. It could only doggedly follow Georgie like a jealous husband seeing nothing else. This was frustrating. I pushed reset. Access. Georgie brushed her teeth somewhere, somewhen. I understood after one or two more of these terrible leaps. Access was random. There was no way to dial up a year, a day, a scene. The park had supplied no program. None. The 8,000 hours weren't filed at all. They were a jumble, like a lunatic's memory, like a deck of shuffled cards. I had supposed, without thinking about it, that they would begin at the beginning and go on till they reached the end. Why didn't they? I also understood something else. If access was truly random, if I truly had no control, then I had lost as good as forever those scenes I had seen. Odds were on the order of 8,000 to 1, more, far more, possibilities are opaque to me, that I would never light on them again by pressing this bar. I felt a pang of loss for that afternoon in Ibiza. It was doubly gone now. I sat before the empty screen, afraid to touch access again, afraid of what I should lose. I shut down the machine. The light level in the room rose, the muzak poured softly back in, and went out into the halls, back to the display screen in the entranceway. The list of names slowly, greenly rolled over like the list of departing flights at an airport. Code numbers were missing from beside many, indicating perhaps that they weren't yet in residence, only waited. In the D's, 3 names and director hidden among them as though he were only another of the dead. A chamber number. I went to find it and went in. The director looked more like a janitor or a night watchman, the semi-retired type you often see caretaking little visited places. He wore a brown smock like a monk's robe and was making coffee in a corner of his small office out of which little business seemed to be done. He looked up, startled, caught out when I entered. Sorry, I said, but I don't think I understand this system right. A problem? He said. Shouldn't be a problem. He looked at me a little wide-eyed and shy, hoping not to be called on for anything difficult. Equipment's all working? I don't know, I said. It doesn't seem that it could be. I described what I thought I had learned about the park's access concept. That can't be right, can it? I said. That access is totally random? He was nodding, still wide-eyed, paying close attention. Is it? I asked. Is what? Oh, yes, sure, if everything's in working order. I could think of nothing to say for a moment, watching him nod reassuringly. Then, why? I asked. I mean, why is there no way at all to have some kind of organized access to the material? I had begun to feel that sense of grotesque foolishness in the presence of death, as though I were haggling over Georgie's effects. That seems stupid, if you'll pardon me. Oh, no, he said. You've read your literature? You've read all your literature? Well, to tell the truth, it's all just as described, the director said. I can promise you that. If there's any problem at all... Do you mind, I said, if I sit down? I smiled. He seemed so afraid of me and my complaint, of me as a mourner, possibly grief-crazed and unable to grasp the simple limits of his responsibilities to me, that he needed soothing himself. I'm sure everything's fine, I said. I just don't think I understand. I'm kind of dumb about these things. Sure. He regretfully put away his coffee makings and sat behind his desk, lacing his fingers together like a consultant. People get a lot of satisfaction out of the access here, he said. A lot of comfort, if they take it in the right spirit. He tried a smile, wondered what qualifications he had to show to get his job. The random part, now it's all in the literature. There's the legal aspect. You're not a lawyer, are you? No, sure, no offense. You see, the material here isn't for anything except for communing. But suppose the stuff were programmed, searchable. Suppose there was a problem about taxes or inheritance or so on. There could be subpoenas, lawyers all over the place, destroying the memorial concept completely. I really hadn't thought of that. Built-in randomness saved past lives from being searched in any systematic way, and no doubt saved the park from being in the records business and at the wrong end of a lot of suits. You'd have to watch the whole 8,000 hours, I said. And even if you found what you were looking for, there'd be no way to replay it. It would have gone by. It would slide into the random past even as you watched it, like that afternoon in Ibiza, that party in Paris, Lost. He smiled and nodded. I smiled and nodded. I'll tell you something, he said. They didn't predict that, the randomness. It was a side effect, an effect of the storage process. Just luck. His grin turned down, his brows knitted seriously. See, we're storing here at the molecular level. We have to go that small for space problems. I mean, your 8,000-hour guarantee. If we had gone tape or conventional, how much room would it take up? If the access concept caught on, a lot of room. So we went vapor trap and endless tracking, size of my thumbnail. It's all in the literature. He looked at me strangely. I had a sudden intense sensation that I was being fooled, tricked, that the man before me in his smock was no expert, no technician. He was a charlatan, or maybe a madman impersonating a director and not belonging here at all. It raised the hair on my neck and passed. So, the randomness, he was saying, it was an effect of going molecular, Brownian movement. All you do is lift the endless tracking for a microsecond, and you get a rearrangement at the molecular level. We don't randomize. The molecules do it for us. I remembered Brownian movement, just barely from physics class. The random movement of molecules, the teacher said. It has a mathematical description. It's like the movement of dust motes you see swimming in a shaft of sunlight, like the swirl of snowflakes in a glass paperweight that shows a cottage being snowed on. I see, I said. I guess I see. Is there, he said, any other problem? He said it as though there might be some other problem, and that he knew what it might be, and that he hoped I didn't have it. You understand the system. Key lock, 2 bars, access, reset. I understand, I said. I understand now. Communing, he said. Standing, relieved, sure I would be gone soon. I understand. It takes a while to relax into the communing concept. Yes, I said. It does. I wouldn't learn what I had come to learn, whatever that was. The wasp had not been good at storage after all. No better than my young soul had been. Days and weeks had been missed by its tiny eye. It hadn't seen well, and in what it had seen, it had been no more able to distinguish the just as well forgotten from the unforgettable than my own eye had been. No better and no worse. The same. And yet, she stood up in Ibiza and dressed, and spoke to me. Oh, look, hummingbirds. I had forgotten, and the wasp had not. And I owned once again what I hadn't known I had lost, hadn't known was precious to me. The sun was setting when I left the park, the satin sea foaming softly, randomly around the rocks. I'd spent my life waiting for something, not knowing what, not even knowing I waited. Killing time. I was still waiting. But what I had been waiting for had already occurred and was past. It was 2 years nearly since Georgie had died. 2 years until, for the first and last time, I wept for her. For her and for myself. Of course, I went back. After a lot of work and correctly placed dollars, I netted a happy card of my own. I had time to spare, like a lot of people then, and often on empty afternoons, never on Sunday, I would get out onto the unpatched and weed-grown freeway and glide up the coast. The park was always open. I relaxed into the commuting concept. Now, after some hundreds of hours spent there underground, now, when I have long ceased to go through those doors, I have lost my key, I think. Anyway, I don't know where to look for it. I know that the solitude I felt myself to be in was real. The watchers around me, the listeners I sensed in other chambers, were mostly my imagination. There was rarely anyone there. These tombs were as neglected as any tombs anywhere usually are. Either the living did not care to attend much on the dead, when have they ever, or the hopeful buyers of the contracts had come to discover the flaw in the access concept as I had discovered it in the end. Access, and she takes dresses one by one from her closet and holds them against her body and studies the effect in a tall mirror and puts them back again. She had a funny face, which she never made except when looking at herself in the mirror, a face made for no one but herself. That was actually quite unlike her. The mirror, Georgie. Reset. Access. By a bizarre coincidence, here she is looking in another mirror. I think the wasp could be confused by mirrors. She turns away. The wasp adjusts. There is someone asleep, tangled in bedclothes on a big hotel bed. Morning. A room service cart. Oh, the Algonquin. Myself. Winter. Snow is falling outside the tall window. She searches her handbag, takes out a small vial, swallows a pill with coffee, holding the cup by its body, not by its handle. I stir, show a tousled head of hair, conversation unintelligible. Gray room, whitish snow light, color degraded. Would I now, I thought, watching us, reach out for her? Would I, in the next hour, take her or she me, push aside the bedclothes, open her pale pajamas? She goes into the john, shuts the door. The wasp watches stupidly, excluded, transmitting the door. Reset, finally. But what, I would wonder, if I had been patient? What if I had watched and waited? Time, it turns out, takes an unconscionable time. The waste, the footless waste, it's no spectator sport. Whatever fun there is in sitting idly looking at nothing and tasting your own being for a whole afternoon, there is no fun in replaying it. The waiting is excruciating. How often in 5 years, in 8,000 hours of daylight or lamplight might we have coupled? How much time expended in lovemaking? 100 hours? 200? Odds were not high of my coming on such a serene darkness swallowed most of them, and the others were lost in the intersex of endless hours spent shopping, reading, on planes and in cars, asleep, apart, hopeless. Access. She has turned on a bedside lamp. Alone, she hunts amid the Kleenex and magazines on the bedside table, finds a watch, looks at it dully, turns it right side up, looks again, and puts it down. Cold, she burrows into the blankets, yawning, staring, then puts out a hand for the phone, but only rests her hand on it, thinking. Thinking at 4 a.m. She withdraws her hand, shivers a child's deep, sleepy shiver, and shuts off the light. A bad dream. In an instant, it's morning, dawn. The wasp slept too. She sleeps soundly, unmoving, only the top of her blonde head showing out of the quilt, and will no doubt sleep for hours, watched over more attentively, more fixedly than any peeping Tom could ever have watched over her. Reset. Access. I can't hear as well as I did at first, I told the director, and the definition is getting softer. Oh, sure, the director said. That's really in the literature. We have to explain that carefully. That might be a problem. Isn't it just my monitor? I asked. I thought it was probably only the monitor. No, not really, no, he said. He gave me a coffee. We'd gotten to be friendly over the months. I think, as well as being afraid of me, he was glad I came around now and then. At least one of the living came here. At least one was using the services. There is a slight degeneration that does occur. Everything seems to be getting gray. His face had shifted into intense concern. No belittling this problem. See, at the molecular level where we're at, there is degeneration. It's just in the physics. It randomizes a little over time, so you lose. You don't lose a minute of what you've got, but you lose a little definition, a little color. But it levels off. It does? We think it does. Sure it does. We promise it does. We predict that it will. But you don't know. Well, you see, we've only been in this business a short while. This concept is new. There were things we couldn't know. He still looked at me, but seemed at the same time to have forgotten me. Tired. He seemed to have grown colorless himself lately. Old, losing definition. You might start getting some snow, he said softly. Access, reset, access. A gray plaza of herringbone-laid stones, gray, clicking palms. She turns up the collar of her sweater, narrowing her eyes in a stern wind. Buys magazines at a kiosk. Vogue, Harper's, Le Mode, Cold. She says to the kiosk girl, Frio. The young man I was takes her arm. They walk back along the beach, which is deserted and strung with cast seaweed, washed by a dirty sea. Winter in Ibiza. We talk, but the wasp can't hear. The sea's sound confuses it. It seems bored by its duties and lags behind us. Reset. Access. The Algonquin, terribly familiar morning, winter. She turns away from the snow window. I am in bed, and for a moment, watching this, I felt suspended between two mirrors, reflected endlessly. I had seen this before. I had lived it once and remembered it once, and remembered the memory. And here it was again. Or could it be nothing but another morning? A similar morning. There were far more than one like this, in this place. But no. She turns from the window. She gets out her vial of pills, picks up the coffee cup by its body. I had seen this moment before, not months before, weeks before, here in this chamber. I had come upon the same scene. I had come upon the same scene twice. What are the odds of it? I wondered. What are the odds of coming upon the same minutes again? These minutes. I stir within the bedclothes. I lean forward to hear, this time, what I would say. It was something like, but fun anyway, or something. Fun, she says, laughing, harrowed, the degraded sound, a ghost twittering. Charlie, someday I'm going to die of fun. She takes her pill. The wasp follows her to the John and is shut out. Why am I here? I thought, and my heart was beating hard and slow. What am I here for? What? Reset. Access. Silvered, icy streets. New York, Fifth Avenue. She is climbing, shouting from a cab's dark interior. Just don't shut me out, she shouts at someone. Her mother I never met, a dragon. She is out and hurrying away down the sleety street with her bundles, the wasp at her shoulder. I could reach out and touch her shoulder and make her turn and follow me out. Walking away, lost in the colorless press of traffic and people, impossible to discern within the softened, snowy image. Something was very wrong. Georgie hated winter. She escaped it most of the time we were together, about the first of the year beginning to long for the sun that had gone elsewhere. Austria was all right for a few weeks. The toy villages and sugar, snow, and bright, sleek skiers were not really the winter she feared, though even in fire-warmed chalets it was hard to get her naked without goose-flesh and shudders from some draught only she could feel. We were chaste in winter, so Georgie escaped it. Antigua and Bali and 2 months in Ibiza when the almonds blossomed. It was continual, false, flavorless spring all winter long. How often could snow have fallen when the wasp was watching her? Not often. Countable times. Times I could count up myself if I could remember as the wasp could. Not often. Not always. There's a problem, I said to the director. It's peaked out, has it? He said. The definition problem? Actually, I said, it's gotten worse. He was sitting behind his desk, arms spread wide across his chair's back, and a false pinkish flush to his cheeks like Undertaker's makeup, drinking. Hasn't peaked out, huh? He said. That's not the problem, I said. The problem is the access. It's not random like you said. Molecular level, he said. It's in the physics. You don't understand. It's not getting any more random. It's getting less random. It's getting selective. It's freezing up. No, he said dreamily. Access is random. Life isn't all summer and fun, you know. Into each life some rain must fall. I sputtered, trying to explain. But, you know, he said, I've been thinking of getting out of Access. He pulled open a drawer in the desk before him. It made an empty sound. He stared within it dully for a moment and shut it. The park's been good for me, but I'm just not used to this. Used to be you thought you could render a service, you know? Well, hell, you know, you've had fun. What do you care? He was mad. For an instant I heard the dead around me. I tasted on my tongue the stale air of underground. I remember, he said, tilting back in his chair and looking elsewhere. Many years ago I got into Access, only we didn't call it that then. What I did was I worked for a stock footage house. It was going out of business, like they all did, like this place here is going to do. I shouldn't say that, but you didn't hear it. Anyway, it was a big warehouse with steel shelves for miles filled with film cans filled with old plastic film, you know. Film of every kind, and movie people, if they wanted old scenes of past time in their movies, would call up and ask for what they wanted. Find me this, find me that. And we had everything, every scene, but you know what the hardest thing to find was? Just ordinary scenes of daily life. I mean, people just doing things, living their lives. You know what we did have? Speeches. People giving speeches, like presidents. You could have hours of speeches, but not just people. What you call it? Oh, washing clothes, sitting in a park. That might just be the reception, I said, somehow. He looked at me for a long moment as though I had just arrived. Anyway, he said at last, turning away again, I was there a while learning the ropes, and producers called and said, get me this, get me that. And one producer was making a film, some film of the past, and he wanted old scenes, of people long ago in the summer, having fun, eating ice cream, swimming in bathing suits, riding in convertibles, 50 years ago, 80 years ago. He opened his empty drawer again, found a toothpick, and began to use it. So I accessed the earliest stuff. Speeches, more speeches. But I found a scene here and there, people on the street, fur coats, window shopping, traffic. Old people. I mean, they were young then, but people of the past. They have these pinched kind of faces you get to know then. Sad, a little. On city streets, hurrying, holding their hats. Cities were sort of black then. In film, black cars in the streets, black derby hats, stone. Well, it wasn't what they wanted. I found summer for them, cool color summer, but new. They wanted old. I kept looking back. I kept looking. I did. The further back I went, the more I saw those pinched faces, black cars, black streets of stone, snow. There isn't any summer there. With slow gravity, he rose and found a brown bottle and 2 coffee cups. He poured sloppily. So it's not your reception, he said. Film takes longer, I guess, but it's in the physics. It's all in the physics. A word to the wise is sufficient. The liquor was harsh, a cold distillate of past sunlight. I wanted to go, get out, not look back. I would not stay watching until there was only snow. So I'm getting out of Access, the director said. Let the dead bury the dead, right? Let the dead bury the dead. I didn't go back. I never went back. Though the highway's open again and the park isn't far from the town I've settled in. Settled, the right word. It restores your balance in the end. Even in a funny way, your cheerfulness when you come to know, without regrets, that the best thing that's going to happen in your life has already happened, and I still have some summer left in me. I think there are 2 different kinds of memory, and only one gets worse as I get older. The kind where, by an effort of will, you can reconstruct your first car or your serial number or the name and your figure of your high school physics teacher, a Mr. Holm in a gray suit, a bearded guy, skinny, about 30. The other kind doesn't worsen. If anything, it grows more intense, the sleepwalking kind. the kind you stumble into as in rooms with secret doors and suddenly find yourself sitting not on your front porch, but in a classroom. You can't at first think where or when, and a bearded, smiling man is turning in his hand a glass paperweight, inside which a little cottage stands in a swirl of snow. There is no access to Georgie, except that now and then, unpredictably, when I'm sitting on the porch or pushing a grocery cart or standing at the sink, a memory of that kind will visit me, vivid and startling, like a hypnotist's snap of fingers, or like the funny experience you sometimes have on the point of sleep, of hearing your name called softly and distinctly by someone who is not there. That was kind of deep. A little deeper than I was than I usually go, but it's such a good story. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. How you doing, Rita? Didn't see you come in. Glad you're here. Oh. So I have acquired the ebook for Bridge to Terabithia. And we'll be starting that on Sunday. Now, I did a word count on it, so it may take 3 sessions, not 2. Yeah, it speaks to... It really speaks to the current culture that we're living in, that so much of our lives are recorded, but also curated to the point where if you were to go back and look at your camera roll, the videos and photographs in your camera roll, that someone might perceive you as a very different person than you were, which is kind of wild to think about, you know? I mean, in theory, because all of these lives get saved up on the tubes, someone could theoretically, 50 years from now, when I am no more, go back and watch them and have a very interesting perspective of me as a person. I would hope that I come across authentic, but I think you just never know, you know? Never know how you come across or what you know, how other people will look at you. Tell us my story. It's it's 50 years of, yeah. Well, now 51, actually. 51 years. I mean, the good thing is I'm living out what I want to do, ultimately. I found my thing. I found my niche. I know it took 50 years to find it, but I did find it. And the last year of my life has probably been more fulfilling than most of the years prior. You know? There were times in there that were interesting, fulfilling. Both of the years that my daughters were born were pretty wild. My youngest, we have a very unique relationship now, and I think that it has a lot to do with the fact that she didn't sleep through the night for 2 years, until she was literally 2 years old. And because just the nature of how things were, I would get up with her every night, and I would give her a bottle, and we'd sit down in the recliner, and we'd both fall asleep. And the woman that we had coming over to nanny for us in the mornings was a good friend of ours, and would come in and find myself and my youngest daughter asleep on the recliner. And it was like that for 2 years. You don't go through that. I mean, it was every night for 2 solid years. You don't go through that without it creating a unique bond. And I am proud to say that I am very close with both of my daughters. And I have a very unique relationship with them, I think. They tell me everything. Sometimes I wish they wouldn't tell me some things, but they do. And I'm okay with that. I would rather be uncomfortable sometimes and have them be able to tell me things that they need to tell me than have them think that they can't tell me things. But my youngest and I have a very special bond. So, yeah. Oh, well, enough of that stuff. I hope so, Rita. I'm just thinking about it. Parenting is weird. It's a very strange thing. Like, your goal with your children is to prepare them to not need you anymore. Hey, Yane, how are you? That's what it is. Your entire job as a parent is to give your child the tools they need to no longer need you. Because someday you won't be there. I read to them every night that they were with me. Every single night. Every single night. My youngest loved the picture book that was adapted from Puff the Magic Dragon. It's a beautifully illustrated book if you've never seen it. And that was one of her favorite books to read. And it was one of her favorite books because I would not only read it, I would sing it, as bad as that would turn out to be. So for her 18th birthday, she asked for a copy of that book, and my mother, her grandmother, sent her one. Well, I didn't have the money for anything super expensive, so what I did was I made a video with the pages from that book, and I read it to her, and I sent it to her. And her exact words were, "Dad, this is the best present I have ever gotten." And it killed me because she said to me, "I can't wait until I have kids so that I can play them that video." You don't get those moments all the time. And when they happen, boy, you gotta hang on to them with both hands. And I told her, I said, I really hope that I can read them to my grandkids at some point. But it's nice to know that I can still do that. That someday, even after I'm gone, my grandkids, my kid, they'll be able to listen to me read them a book. That's pretty cool. Okay. Enough of that emotional shit. Oh, good Lord. I'm not going to cry on stream again. Guys are killing me. Getting me to tell sad stories. Emotional, not sad, but just emotional stories. Well, clean my glasses here, and then we'll read our next. I'm not crying, you're crying. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh. I know. God, being human is such a pain in the ass. Oh, Timothy, thank you. It saddens me when I see dads who are not as involved with their kids as they should be. What was weird was when my oldest daughter was born and we were in the hospital, and I pulled the nurse aside and I said, "Hey, can you show me how to swaddle the baby properly?" And she looked at me like I had three heads. Like, you want to learn how to swaddle the baby? What? And but she showed me, and I became an expert baby swaddler. So now I just know how to do it. But I've had people ask me for parenting advice. I don't know why. I guess I just give off that vibe. And to fathers, and it really is true with both parents, but particularly with fathers, partly because of the societal expectations. When I have my kids, I'm parenting. I'm not babysitting, when I was out with my kids by myself. I hate that. But what I tell people is show up. Be present. Don't ever put anything over your kids. Because there will come a time when they are older and don't want to spend as much time with you, and you'll wish you had. But if you do show up, if you go to the parent-teacher conferences, if you go to the doctor's appointments, if you go to all the concerts and the field days and volunteer for events at school, if you do all of that, I guarantee you, you will never regret it. And someday that kid's going to look at you and going to go, "Thank you for always being there." And I can tell you right now that there is no better feeling in the world than knowing that your kid recognizes how much you put in. Johnny, it really is. And that song is so, so true. There's no job in this world that is worth missing out on your kids' childhoods. There isn't. Did I make as much money as I could have while they were kids? Nope. Do I care? Nope. I wouldn't trade my time with my kids for anything. That time with them growing up, I wouldn't trade it for anything. What I would trade is for more of that time. But that's why you got to take it when you get it, because you never get more of it. Oh, yeah. All right, before I start losing people. Oh, anyway, that's enough out of me. Every 3 to 6 months and showers their kid was gift, as if that's okay. When I was growing up, I saw my parents were divorced, and I saw my father probably 3 or 4 times a year at the most. And it was usually for a weekend, maybe a week during the summer. I spent more time with my grandparents than I spent with my father. And my grandparents lived 3 hours away. My father lived hour and a half. We were divorced when I was 5. And from 5 into, My dad passed away in 2010. I spent absolutely 0 birthdays with him. I just wasn't a priority. And it sucked. Because I thought there was something wrong with me, that I wasn't worth the 2-hour drive. And the fact is, I was worth the 2-hour drive. He just didn't realize it. So I set myself to be the father that I should have had. And I can say for a fact that I was better than he was. It's not that my dad didn't love me. His priorities were just fucked up. We had good memories. Wright Brothers flew at Kitty Hawk? Holy shit. Yeah. I can tell you that I wouldn't be the father that I have been if not for what happened between my father and I. But the good news is that my mother remarried, and my stepfather, who I call Dad, has been more of a father to me than my biological father ever was. He's a good man, and I love him dearly, and my kids adore him, and he loves being a grandfather. And so it worked out in the end. And now that my mom is not doing great, he takes good care of her, and I never have to worry about it, you know? Wow, way to bring the room down, dude. Holy shit. I gotta stop. This is getting heavy, man. This is getting heavy. It is about who shows up. And that's what matters. Okay. Well, our next story has to do with memories in the nature of reality. It is called I Hope I Shall Arrive Soon by Philip K. Dick. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I try to be real and authentic every night that I'm up here. I don't want to be fake with you guys. All right. I clicked the button, by the way, just so you know. Well, thank you, Anastasia. I appreciate that. I try to be real with y'all, you know, and read some stories. So, again, this is I Hope I Shall Arrive Soon by Philip K. Dick. After takeoff, the ship routinely monitored the condition of the 60 people sleeping in its cryonic tanks. One malfunction showed, that of person 9. His EEG revealed brain activity. Shit, the ship said to itself. Complex homeostatic devices locked into the circuit feed, and the ship contacted person 9. You are slightly awake, the ship said, utilizing the psychotronic route. There was no point in rousing person 9 to full consciousness. After all, the flight would last a decade. Virtually unconscious, but unfortunately still able to think, person 9 thought. Someone is addressing me, he said. Where am I located? I don't see anything. You're in faulty cryonic suspension, he said. Then I shouldn't be able to hear you. Faulty, I said. That's the point. You can hear me. Do you know your name? Victor Cummings. Bring me out of this. We are in flight. Then put me under. Just a moment. The ship examined the cryonic mechanisms. It scanned and surveyed, and then it said, I will try. Time passed. Victor Cummings, unable to see anything, unaware of his body, found himself still conscious. Lower my temperature, he said. He could not hear his voice. Perhaps he only imagined he spoke. Colors floated toward him and then rushed at him. He liked the colors. They reminded him of a child's paint box, of the semi-animated kind, an artificial life form. He had used them in school 200 years ago. I can't put you under, the voice of the ship sounded inside Cummings' head. The malfunction is too elaborate. I cannot correct it. I can't repair it. You will be conscious for 10 years. The semi-animated colors rushed toward him, but now they possessed a sinister quality, supplied to them by his own fear. Oh my God, he said. 10 years. The colors darkened. As Victor Cummings lay paralyzed, surrounded by dismal flickerings of light, the ship explained to him its strategy. This strategy did not represent a decision on its part. The ship had been programmed to seek this solution in case of a malfunction of this sort. What I will do, the voice of the ship came to him, is feed you sensory stimulation. The peril to you is sensory deprivation. If you are conscious for 10 years without sensory data, your mind will deteriorate. When we reach the LR4 system, you will be a vegetable. Well, what do you intend to feed me? Cummings said in panic. What do you have in your information storage banks? All the video soap operas of the last century? Wake me up and I'll walk around. There is no air in me, the ship said. Nothing for you to eat, no one to talk to, since everyone else is under. Cummings said, I could talk to you. We could play chess. Not for 10 years. Listen to me. I say I have no food and no air. You must remain as you are. A bad compromise, but one forced on us. You are talking to me now. I have no particular information stored. Here is policy in these situations. I will feed you your own buried memories, emphasizing the pleasant ones. You possess 206 years of memories, and most of them have sunk down into your unconscious. This is a splendid source of sensory data for you to receive. Be of good cheer. This situation which you are in is not unique. It has never happened within my domain before, but I am programmed to deal with it. Relax and trust me. I will see that you are provided with a world. They should have warned me, Cummings said, before I agreed to emigrate. Relax, the ship said. He relaxed, but he was terribly frightened. Theoretically, he should have gone under into the successful cryonic suspension, then awakened a moment later at his star of destination, or rather the planet, the colony planet of that star. Everyone else on board the ship lay in an unknowing state. He was the exception, as if bad karma had attacked him for obscure reasons. Worst of all, he had to depend totally on the goodwill of the ship. Suppose it elected to feed him monsters. The ship could terrorize him for 10 years. 10 objective years, and undoubtedly more from a subjective standpoint. He was, in effect, totally in the ship's power. Did interstellar ships enjoy such a situation? He knew little about interstellar ships. His field was microbiology. Let me think, he said to himself. My first wife, Martine, the lovely little French girl who wore jeans and a red shirt open at the waist and cooked delicious crepes. I hear, the ship said, so be it. The rushing colors resolved themselves into coherent, stable shapes. A building, a little old yellow wooden house that he had owned when he was 19 years old in Wyoming. "Wait," he said in panic. The foundation was bad. It was on a mud sill, and the roof leaked. But he saw the kitchen, with the table that he had built himself, and he felt glad. "You will not know after a while," the ship said, "that I am feeding you your own buried memories." "I haven't thought of that house in a century," he said wonderingly. Entranced, he made out his old electric drip coffee pot with the box of paper filters beside it. "This is the house where Martine and I lived," he realized. "Martine?" he said out loud. "I am on the phone," Martine said from the living room. The ship said, "I will cut in only when there is an emergency. I will be monitoring you, however, to be sure you are in satisfactory state. Don't be afraid." "Turn down the right burner on the stove," Martine called. He could hear her and yet not see her. He made his way from the kitchen through the dining room and into the living room. At the VF, Martine stood in rapt conversation with her brother. She wore shorts, and she was barefoot. Through the front windows of the living room he could see the street. A commercial vehicle was trying to park without success. "It's a warm day. I should turn on the air conditioner." He seated himself on the old sofa as Martine continued her VF conversation, and he found himself gazing at his most cherished possession. A framed poster on the wall above Martine, Gilbert Shelton's Fat Freddy Says, drawing in which Freddy, freak, sits with his cat on his lap, and Fat Freddy is trying to say "speed kills," but he is so wired on speed. He holds in his hand every kind of amphetamine tablet, pill, snapsule, and capsule that exists. Then he can't say it, and the cat is gritting his teeth and wincing in a mixture of dismay and disgust. The poster is signed by Gilbert Shelton himself. Kemming's best friend, Ray Torrance, gave it to him and Martine as a wedding present. It's worth thousands. It was signed by the artist back in the 1980s, long before either Victor Kemmings or Martine lived. If we were ever to run out of money, Kemmings thought to himself, we could sell the poster. It was not a poster, it was the poster. Martine adored it, the fabulous furry freak brothers from the golden age of a long-ago society. No wonder he loved Martine so. She herself loved back, loved the beauties of the world, and treasured and cherished them as she treasured and cherished him. It was a protective love that nourished but did not stifle. It had been her idea to frame the poster. He would have tacked it up on the wall, so stupid was he. "Hi," Martine said off the VF now. "What are you thinking?" "Just that you keep alive what you love," he said. "I think that's what you're supposed to do," Martine said. "Are you ready for dinner? Open some red wine, a Cabernet." "Will an 07 do?" he said, standing up. He felt, then, like taking hold of his wife and hugging her. "Either an 07 or 12. She trotted past him through the dining room and into the kitchen. Going down into the cellar, he began to search among the bottles, which of course lay flat. Musty air and dampness, like the smell of the cellar. But then he noticed the redwood planks lying half buried in the dirt, and he thought, "I know I've got to get a concrete slab poured." He forgot about the wine and went over to the far corner where the dirt was piled highest. Bending down, he poked at a board. He poked with a trowel, and then he thought, "Where did I get this trowel? I didn't have it a minute ago." The board crumbled against the trowel. "This whole house is collapsing," he realized. "Christ's sake, I better tell Martine." Going back upstairs, the wine forgotten, he started to say to her that the foundations of the house were dangerously decayed, but Martine was nowhere in sight. And nothing cooked on the stove, no pots, no pans. Amazed, he put his hands on the stove and found it cold. Wasn't she just cooking? He asked himself. "Martine," he said loudly. No response. Except for himself, the house was empty. empty, he thought, and collapsing. Oh my God! He seated himself at the kitchen table and felt the chair give slightly under him. It did not give much, but he felt it. He felt the sagging. I'm afraid, he thought. Where did she go? He returned to the living room. Maybe she went next door to borrow some spices or butter or something, he reasoned nonetheless. Panic now filled him. He looked at the poster. It was unframed, and the edges had been torn. I know she framed it, he thought. He ran across the room to examine it closely. Faded. The artist's signature had faded. He could scarcely make it out. She insisted on framing it and under glare-free, reflection-free glass. But it isn't framed, and it's torn, the most precious thing we own. Suddenly he found himself crying. It amazed him, his tears. Martine is gone. The poster is deteriorated. The house is crumbling away. Nothing is cooking on the stove. This is terrible, he thought. And I don't understand it. The ship understood it. The ship had been carefully monitoring Victor Kemming's brainwave patterns, and the ship knew that something had gone wrong. The waveforms showed agitation and pain. I must get him out of this feed circuit, or it will kill him, the ship decided. Where does the flaw lie? It asked itself. Worry dormant in the man, underlying anxieties. Perhaps if I intensify the signal, I will use the same source but amp up the charge. What has happened is that massive subliminal insecurities have taken possession of him. The fault is not mine, but lies instead in his psychological makeup. I will try another period in his life, the ship decided, before the neurotic anxieties got laid down. In the backyard, Victor scrutinized a bee that had gotten itself trapped in a spider web. The spider wound up the bee with great care. That's wrong, Victor thought. I let the bee loose. Reaching up, he took hold of the encapsulated bee, drew it from the web, and scrutinizing it carefully, began to unwrap it. The bee stung him. It felt like a little patch of flame. Why did it sting me, he wondered. I was letting it go. He went indoors to his mother and told her. But she did not listen. She was watching television. His finger hurt where the bee had stung it, but more important, he did not understand why the bee would attack its rescuer. I won't do that again, he said to himself. Put some Bactine on it, his mother said at last, roused from watching the TV. He had begun to cry. It was unfair. It made no sense. He was perplexed and dismayed, and he felt a little hatred toward small living things because they were dumb. They didn't have any sense. He left the house, played for a time on his swings, his slide, and in his sandbox, and then he went into the garage because he had heard a strange, flapping, whirring sound, like a kind of fan. Inside the gloomy garage, he found that a bird was fluttering against the cobwebbed rear window, trying to get out. Below it, the cat, Dorky, leapt and leapt, trying to reach the bird. He picked up the cat. The cat extended its body and its front legs. It extended its jaws and bit into the bird. At once, the cat scrambled down and ran off with the still fluttering bird. Victor ran into the house. Dorky caught a bird, he told his mother. That goddamn cat! His mother took the broom from the closet in the kitchen and ran outside, trying to find Dorky. The cat had concealed itself under the bramble bushes. She could not reach it with the broom. I'm going to get rid of that cat, his mother said. Victor did not tell her that he had arranged for the cat to catch the bird. He watched in silence as his mother tried to pry Dorky out from her hiding place. Dorky was crunching up the bird. He could hear the sound of breaking bones, small bones. He felt a strange feeling, as if he should tell his mother what he had done, and yet if he told her, she would punish him. I won't do that again, he said to himself. His face, he realized, had turned red. What if his mother figured it out? What if she had some secret way of knowing? Dorky couldn't tell her, and the bird was dead. No one would know. He was safe. But he felt bad. That night he could not eat his dinner. Both his parents noticed. They thought he was sick. They took his temperature. He said nothing about what he had done. His mother told his father about Dorky, and they decided to get rid of Dorky. Seated at the table listening, Victor began to cry. "All right," his father said gently. "We won't get rid of her. It's natural for a cat to catch a bird." The next day he sat playing in his sandbox. Some plants grew up through the sand. He broke them off. Later his mother told him that had been the wrong thing to do. Alone in the backyard in his sandbox, he sat with a pail of water, forming a small mound of wet sand. The sky, which had been blue and clear, became by degrees overcast. A shadow passed over him, and he looked up. He sensed a presence around him, something vast that could think. "You are responsible for the death of the bird," the presence thought. He could understand its thoughts. "I know," he said. He wished then that he could die, that he could replace the bird and die for it, leaving it as it had been, fluttering against the cobwebbed window of the garage. The bird wanted to fly and eat and live, the presence thought. "Yes," he said miserably. "You must never do that again," the presence told him. "I'm sorry," he said, and wept. This is a very neurotic person, the ship realized. I am having an awful lot of trouble finding happy memories. There is too much fear in him and too much guilt. He has buried it all, and yet it is still there, worrying him like a dog worrying a rag. Where can I go in his memories to find him solace? I must come up with 10 years of memories, or his mind will be lost. Perhaps, the ship thought, the error that I am making is in the error of choice on my part. I should allow him to select his own memories. However, the ship realized this will allow an element of fantasy to enter, and that is not usually good. Still, I will try to segment dealing with his first marriage once again, the ship decided. He really loved Martine. Perhaps this time, if I keep the intensity of the memories at a greater level, the entropic factor can be abolished. What happened was a subtle vitation of the remembered world, a decay of structure. I will try to compensate for that. So be it. Do you suppose Gilbert Shelton really signed this? Martine said pensively. She stood before the poster, her arms folded. She rocked back and forth slightly, as if seeking a better perspective on the brightly colored drawing hanging on their living room wall. I mean, it could have been forged by a dealer somewhere along the line during Shelton's lifetime or after. The letter of authentication, Victor Cummings reminded her. Oh, that's right, she smiled, her warm smile. Ray gave us the letter that goes with it. But suppose the letter is a forgery. What we need is another letter certifying that the first letter is authentic. Laughing, she walked away from the poster. Ultimately, Cummings said, we would have to have Gilbert Shelton here to personally testify that he signed it. Maybe he wouldn't know. There's that story about the man bringing the Picasso picture to Picasso and asking him if it was authentic, and Picasso immediately signed it and said, Now it's authentic. She put her arm around Cummings and, standing on tiptoe, kissed him on the cheek. It's genuine. Ray wouldn't have given us a forgery. He's the leading expert on counterculture art of the 20th century. Do you know that he owns an actual lid of dope? It's preserved under... Ray is dead, Victor said. What? She gazed at him in astonishment. Do you mean something happened to him since we last? He's been dead 2 years, Cummings said. I was responsible. I was driving the buzz car. I wasn't cited by the police, but it was my fault. Ray is living on Mars, she stared at him. I know. I was responsible. I never told you. I never told anyone. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do it. I saw it flapping against the window, and Dorky was trying to reach it, and I lifted Dorky up, and I don't know why, but Dorky grabbed it. Sit down, Victor. Martine led him to the overstuffed chair and made him seat himself. Something's wrong, she said. I know, he said. Something terrible is wrong. I'm responsible for taking of a life, a precious life that can never be replaced. I'm sorry. I wish I could make it okay, but I can't. After a pause, Martine said, Call Ray. The cat, he said. What cat? There, he pointed on the poster, on Fat Freddy's lap. That's Dorky. Dorky killed Ray. Silence. The presence told me, Kemming said. It was God. I didn't realize it at the time, but God saw me commit the crime, the murder, and he will never forgive me. His wife stared at him numbly. God sees everything you do, Kemming said. He sees even the falling sparrow. In this case, it didn't fall. It was grabbed out of the air and torn down. God is tearing this house down, which is my body, to pay me back for what I've done. We should have had a building contractor look at this house before we bought it. It's just falling goddamn to pieces. In a year, there won't be anything left of it. Don't you believe me? Martine faltered. Watch. Kemmings reached up his arms toward the ceiling. He stood. He reached. He could not touch the ceiling. He walked to the wall then, after a pause, put his hand through the wall. Martine screamed. The ship aborted the memory retrieval instantly, but the harm had been done. He has integrated his early fears and guilts into one interwoven grid, the ship said to itself. There is no way I can serve up a pleasant memory to him because he instantly contaminates it. However pleasant the original experience in itself was, this is a serious situation, the ship decided. The man is already showing signs of psychosis, and we are hardly into the trip. Years lie ahead of him. After allowing itself time to think the situation through, the ship decided to contact Victor Kemmings once more. Mr. Kemmings, the ship said. I'm sorry, Kemmings said. I didn't mean to follow up those retrievals. You did a good job, but Just a moment, the ship said. I am not equipped to do psychiatric reconstruction of you. I am a simple mechanism. That's all. What is it you want? Where do you want to be? And what do you want to be doing? I want to arrive at our destination, Kemmings said. I want this trip to be over. Ah, the ship thought. That is the solution. One by one, the cryonic systems shut down. One by one, the people returned to life. Among them, Victor Kemmings. What amazed him was the lack of sense of passage of time. He had entered the chamber, lain down, and felt the membrane cover him, and the temperature began to drop. And now he stood on the ship's external platform, the unloading platform, gazing down at a verdant planetary landscape. This, he realized, is LR4-6, the colony world to which I have come in order to begin a new life. It looks good, a heavy-set woman beside him said. Yes, he said, and felt the newness of the landscape rush up at him. Its promise of a beginning, something better than he had known the past 200 years. I am a fresh person in a fresh world, he thought, and he felt glad. Colors raced at him like those of a child's semi-animate kit. St. Elmo's fire, he realized. That's right. There is a great deal of ionization in this planet's atmosphere, a free light show such as they had had back in the 20th century. Mr. Kemmings, a voice said. An elderly man had come up beside him to speak to him. Did you dream? During the suspension? Kemmings said. No, not that I can remember. I think I dreamed, the elderly man said. Would you take my arm on the descent ramp? I feel unsteady. The air seems thin. Do you find it thin? Don't be afraid, Kemmings said to him. He took the elderly man's arm. I'll help you down the ramp. Look, there's a guide coming this way. He'll arrange our processing for us. It's part of the package. We'll be taken to a resort hotel and given first-class accommodations. Read your brochure." He smiled at the uneasy older gentleman to reassure him. "You'd think our muscles would be nothing but flab after 10 years in suspension," the elderly man said. "It's just like freezing peas," Cummings said, holding on to the timid older man. He descended the ramp to the ground. "You can store them forever if you get them cold enough." "My name's Shelton," the elderly man said. "What?" Cummings said, halting. A strange feeling moved through him. "Done, Shelton." The elderly man extended his hand reflexively. Cummings accepted it, and they shook. "What's the matter, Mr. Cummings? Are you all right?" "Sure," he said. "I'm fine, but hungry. I'd like to get something to eat. I'd like to get to our hotel where I can take a shower and change my clothes." He wondered where their baggage could be found. Probably it would take the ship an hour to unload it. The ship was not particularly intelligent. In an intimate, confidential tone, elderly Mr. Shelton said, "You know what I brought with me? A bottle of wild turkey bourbon. The finest bourbon on earth. I'll bring it over to our hotel room and we'll share it." He nudged Cummings. "I don't drink," Cummings said. "Only wine." He wondered if there were any good wines here on this distant colony world. Not distant now, he reflected. It's Earth that's distant. I should have done like Mr. Sheldon and brought a few bottles with me. Shelton. What did that name remind him of? Something in his far past, in his early years, something precious, along with good wine and a pretty, gentle young woman making crepes in an old-fashioned kitchen. Aching memories, memories that hurt. Presently he stood by the bed in his hotel room, his suitcase open. He had begun to hang up his clothes. In the corner of the room, a TV hologram showed a newscaster. He ignored it, but liking the sound of a human voice, he kept it on. Did I have any dreams? He asked himself. During these past 10 years. His hand hurt. Gazing down, he saw a red welt as if he had been stung. A bee stung me, he realized. But when? How? While I lay in cryonic suspension? Impossible. Yet he could see the welt, and he could feel the pain. I better get something to put on it, he realized. There's undoubtedly a robot doctor in the hotel at it's a first-rate hotel. When the robot doctor had arrived and was treating the bee sting, Cummings said, I got this as punishment for killing the bird. Oh, excuse me. Really? The robot doctor said. Everything that ever meant anything to me has been taken away from me, Cummings said. Martine, the poster, my little old house with the wine cellar. We had everything, and now it's gone. Martine left me because of the bird. The bird you killed, the robot doctor said. God punished me. He took away all that was precious to me because of my sin. It wasn't Dorky's sin, it was mine. But you were just a little boy, the robot doctor said. How did you know that? Cummings said. He pulled his hand away from the doctor's grasp. Something's wrong. You shouldn't have known that. Your mother told me. My mother didn't know, the robot doctor said. She figured it out. There was no way the cat could have reached the bird without your help. So all the time that I was growing up, she knew, but she never said anything? You can forget about it, the robot doctor said. Cummings said, I don't think you exist. There is no possible way that you could know these things. I'm still in cryonic suspension, and the ship is still feeding me my own buried memories, so I won't become psychotic from sensory deprivation. You could hardly have a memory of completing the trip. Wish fulfillment, then. It's the same thing. I'll prove it to you. Do you have a screwdriver? Why? Cummings said. I'll remove the back of the TV set and you'll see there's nothing inside it. No components, no parts, no chassis, nothing. I don't have a screwdriver. A small knife, then. I can see one in your surgical supply bag. Bending, Cummings lifted up a small scalpel. This will do. If I show you, you will believe me. If there's nothing inside the TV cabinet? Squatting down, Cummings removed the screws holding the back panel of the TV set in place. The panel came loose, and he set it down on the floor. There was nothing inside the TV cabinet, and yet the color hologram continued to fill a quarter of the hotel room, and the voice of the newscaster issued forth from his three-dimensional image. "Admit you're the ship," Cummings said to the robot doctor. "Oh dear," the robot doctor said. "Oh dear," the ship said to itself, "and I've got almost 10 years of this lying ahead of me. He is absolutely contaminating his experiences with childhood guilt. He imagines that his wife left him because when he was 4 years old he helped a cat catch a bird. The only solution would be for Martine to return to him. But how am I going to arrange that? She may not still be alive. On the other hand, the ship reflected, maybe she is alive. Maybe she could be induced to do something to save her former husband's sanity. People, by and large, have very positive traits, and 10 years from now it will take a lot to save or rather restore his sanity. It will take something drastic, something I myself cannot do alone." Meanwhile, there was nothing to be done but recycle the wish-fulfillment arrival of the ship at its destination. "I will run him through the arrival," the ship decided, "then wipe his conscious memory clean and run him through it again. The only positive aspect of this," it reflected, "that is it will give me something to do which may help preserve my sanity." Lying in cryonic suspension, faulty cryonic suspension, Victor Cummings imagined once again that the ship was touching down, and he was being brought back to consciousness. "Did you dream?" a heavy-set woman asked him as a group of passengers gathered on the outer platform. "I have the impression that I dreamed. Early scenes from my life over a century ago." "None that I can remember," Cummings said. He was eager to reach his hotel. A shower and a change of clothes would do wonders for his morale. He felt slightly depressed and wondered why. "There's our guide," an elderly lady said. "They're going to escort us to our accommodations." "It's in the package," Cummings said. His depression remained. The others seemed so spirited, so full of life, but over him only a weariness lay, a weighing down sensation as if the gravity of this colony planet were too much for him. "Maybe that's it," he said to himself. But according to the brochure, the gravity here matched Earth's. That was one of the attractions. Puzzled, he made his way slowly down the ramp, step by step, holding onto the rail. "I don't really deserve a new chance at life anyhow," he realized. "I'm just going through the motions. I'm not like these other people. There is something wrong with me. I cannot remember what it is, but nonetheless it is there, in me, a bitter sense of pain, of lack of worth." An insect landed on the back of Cummings' right hand, an old insect, weary with flight. He halted, watched it crawl across his knuckles. "I could crush it," he thought. "It's so obviously infirm, it won't live much longer anyhow." He crushed it, and felt a great inner horror. "What have I done?" he asked himself. "My first moment here, and I have wiped out a little life. Is this my new beginning?" Turning, he gazed back up at the ship. "Maybe I thought to go back," he thought. "Have them freeze me forever. I am a man of guilt, a man who destroys." Tears filled his eyes. And within its sentient works, the interstellar ship moaned. During the 10 long years remaining in the trip to the LR4 system, the ship had plenty of time to track down Martine Cummings. It explained the situation to her. She had emigrated to a vast orbiting dome in the Sirius system, found her situation unsatisfactory, and was en route back to Earth. Roused from her own cryonic suspension, she listened intently and then agreed to be at the colony world LR46 when her ex-husband arrived, if it was at all possible. Fortunately, it was possible. "I don't think he'll recognize me," Martine said to the ship. "I've allowed myself to age. I don't really approve of entirely halting the aging process." He'll be lucky if he recognizes anything, the ship thought. At the intersystem spaceport on the colony world of LR4-6, Martine stood waiting for the people aboard. The ship to appear on the outer platform. She wondered if she would recognize her former husband. She was a little afraid, but she was glad that she had gotten to LR4-6 in time. It had been close. Another week, and his ship would have arrived before hers. Luck is on my side, she said to herself, and scrutinized the newly landed interstellar ship. People appeared on the platform. She saw him. Victor had changed very little. As he came down the ramp, holding on to the railing as if very weary and hesitant, she came up to him, her hands thrust deep in the pockets of her coat. She felt shy, and when she spoke, she could hardly hear her own voice. "Hi, Victor," she managed to say. He halted and gazed at her. "I know you," he said. "It's Martine," she said. Holding out his hand, he said, smiling, "You heard about the trouble on the ship." "The ship contacted me." She took his hand and held it. "What an ordeal." "Yeah," he said, "recirculating memories forever. Did I ever tell you about a bee that I was trying to extricate from a spider's web when I was 4 years old? The idiotic bee stung me." He bent down and kissed her. "It's good to see you," he said. "Did the ship?" "It said it would try to have you here, but it wasn't sure if you could make it." As they walked toward the terminal building, Martine said, "I was lucky. I managed to get a transfer to a military vehicle, a high-velocity drive ship that just shot along like a mad thing, a new propulsion system entirely." Victor Cummings said, "I have spent more time in my own unconscious mind than any other person in history. Worse than early 20th century psychoanalysis, and the same material over and over again. Did you know I was scared of my mother?" "I was scared of your mother," Martine said. They stood at the baggage depot waiting for his luggage to appear. "This looks like a really nice little planet. Much better than where I was. I haven't been happy at all." "So maybe there's a cosmic plan," he said. "You look great." "I'm old." "Medical science? It was my decision. I like older people." She surveyed him. "He's been hurt a lot by the cryonic malfunction," she said to herself. "I can see it in his eyes. They look broken eyes torn down into pieces by fatigue and defeat, as if his buried early memories swam up and destroyed him. But it's over," she thought, "and I did get here in time." At the bar in the terminal they sat having a drink. "This old man got me to try wild turkey bourbon," Victor said. "It's amazing bourbon. He says it's the best on earth. He brought a bottle with him." His voice died into silence. "One of your fellow passengers?" Martine finished. "I guess so." "Well, you can stop thinking of birds and the bees," Martine said. "Sex?" he said and laughed. "Being stung by a bee, helping a cat catch a bird, that's all past." "That cat," Victor said, "has been dead 182 years. I figured it out while they were bringing us out of suspension. Probably just as well. Dorky. Dorky the killer cat. Nothing like Fat Freddy's cat." "I had to sell the poster," Martine said, finally. He frowned. "Remember?" she said. "You let me have it when we split up, which I always thought was really good of you." "How much did you get for it?" "A lot. I should pay you something like," she calculated, taking inflation into account, "I should pay you about $2 million. "Would you consider," he said, "instead, in place of the money, my share of the sale of the poster, spending some time with me until I get used to this planet?" "Yes," she said, and she meant it very much. They finished their drinks, and then, with his luggage transported by robot space cap, made their way to his hotel room. "This is a nice room," Martine said, perched on the edge of the bed, "and it has a hologram TV. Turn it on." "There is no use turning it on," Victor Cummings said. He stood by the open closet, hanging up his shirts. "Why not?" Cummings said. "There's nothing on it." Going over to the TV set, Martine turned it on. A hockey game materialized, projected out into the room in full color, and the sound of the game assailed her ears. "It works fine," she said. "I know," he said. "I can prove it to you. You have a nail file or something? I'll unscrew the backplate and show you." "But I can—" "Look at this." He paused his work and hanging up his clothes. "Watch me put my hand through the wall." He placed the palm of his hand against the wall. "See?" His hand did not go through the wall, because hands do not go through walls. His hand remained pressed against the wall, unmoving. "And the foundation," he said, "is rotting away." "Come and sit down by me," Martine said. "I've lived through this often enough now," he said. "I've lived this over and over again. I come out of suspension, I walk down the ramp, I get my luggage, sometimes I have a drink at the bar, and sometimes I come directly to my room. I usually turn on the TV, and then—" He came over and held his hand toward her. "See where the bee stung me?" She saw no mark on his hand. She took his hand and held it. "There is no bee sting," she said. "And when the robot doctor comes, I borrow a tool from him, take the back plate off the TV set to prove to him that there's no chassis, no components in it, and then the ship starts me over again." "Victor," she said, "look at your hand." "This is the first time you've been here, though," he said. "Sit down," she said. "Okay." He seated himself on the bed beside her, but not too close to her. "Won't you sit closer to me?" she said. "It makes me so sad," he said, "remembering you. I really loved you. I wish this was real." Martine said, "I will sit with you until it is real for you." "I'm going to try reliving the part up with the cat," he said, "and this time not pick up the cat and not let it get the bird. If I do that, maybe my life will change so that it turns into something happy, something that is real. My real mistake was separating from you. Here, I'll put my hand through you." He placed his hand against her arm. The pressure of his muscles was vigorous. She felt the weight, the physical presence of him against her. "See?" he said. "Goes right through you." "And all this," she said, "because you killed a bird when you were a little boy." "No," he said. "All this because of a failure in the temperature regulating assembly aboard the ship. I'm not down to the proper temperature. There's just enough warmth left in my brain cells to permit cerebral activity." He stood up then and stretched and smiled at her. "Shall we go get some dinner?" he asked. She said, "I'm sorry, I'm not hungry." "I am. I'm going to have some of the local seafood. The brochure says it's terrific. Come along anyhow. Maybe when you see the food and smell it, you'll change your mind." Gathering up her coat and purse, she came with him. "This is a beautiful little planet," he said. "I've explored it 12 times. I know it thoroughly. We should stop downstairs at the pharmacy for some Bactine, though, for my hand. It's beginning to swell, and it hurts like hell." He showed her his hand. "It hurts more this time than ever before." "Do you want me to come back to you?" Martine said. "Are you serious?" "Yes," she said. "I'll stay with you as long as you want. I agree we should never have been separated." Victor Cummings said, "The poster is torn." "What?" she said. "We should have framed it," he said. "We didn't have sense enough to take care of it. Now it's torn, and the artist is dead." Oh, yes. If you know anything about Philip K. Dick, you know that he loves to play with reality and question reality. Oh, yes, that's the end. But the question is, was the end really just a memory, or was he actually there and she actually there? Hey, Katie, how are you? Yep, an evening about memories and the nature of reality and all that fun stuff. So, I would love to read more Philip K. Dick, but his stuff gets a little out there sometimes. I thought that one, when I picked the first one, I thought this one was, and that's the debate, Yanni. That's like the thing is like, is she really there? Is she not there? Is this reality, or is he still stuck in the ship? Yeah, and Vanilla Sky. Yeah, yeah. There is a bit of without Philip K. Dick and his stories, you really wouldn't have a movie like Vanilla Sky. It's very cool stuff. His stuff has been adapted into different movies. Blade Runner was adapted from the novel "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?" Um, there's The Man in the High Castle that was on Amazon for a while. That was based on his book. Um, he inspired. Let's see. The movie Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger was based on a short story, which I might be able to read, called "We Can Remember It for You Wholesale." Um, there was a small science fiction movie called Screamers, based on his short story Second Variety. The movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise, Steven Spielberg was based on his story. Paycheck with Ben Affleck was based on his story. Um, great, great author. Very mind bending. You ever want to read something that will completely mess up your sense of reality? There's a book of his called Ubik, Ubik. It's fantastic. When I finally finished it and put it down, I was like, is this real? Am I in the real world, or is this? But yeah, it's so good, such good stuff, and his really fascinating view. He has a really fascinating view of the world and philosophy and all that stuff. So he's really an interesting guy. So look at that. We're right on time. Hey, Naomi. Well, I'm glad you stopped in to say hello. It's good to see you. Johnny, yeah, it's. I mean, the Matrix wouldn't exist without a guy without the stories by Philip K. Dick. Um, yeah, it's cool stuff. I have to find it. I have a T-shirt. So the like I said, Blade Runner was based on one of his books called "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?" I have a T-shirt somewhere that has a robot sheep on it, or has a robot on it, and then it has a little dream bubble above it that has a robot sheep in it. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. But anyway, well, I am so thank you for uh, spending a couple of hours with me tonight. I really appreciate it. Come back on Sunday and we'll start Bridge to Terabithia, and we'll continue that on until Monday. If we have to go a third night, I may push it to Wednesday, and we'll finish it on Wednesday night, but we will see. We'll test that out and see what happens. And then, we'll be back to our normal stuff. But anyway, I am looking forward to it as well. So I can't wait to read it with you guys. As always, if you enjoy what I do here and want to help support the channel, please consider becoming a super fan or subscribing. That would either way is totally cool. And whether you subscribe or become a super fan or not, I am just happy that you are here with me. So I am going to call it a night. And until Sunday, please be kind to each other. And be kind to yourself, because kindness matters. And so do you. Good night, everybody.